Hey everybody, Mr. O here with a Chapter 10 Career Choices and Taxes video helper for the test. And if you're watching this, that's a good sign, and you probably will end up doing a little bit better on the test than those who don't watch this. So good job. Let's go ahead and get started. And let's talk about three of the main things when he was talking about career choices. Resume, you should know what a resume is. And basically the resume is just giving a history of things that have happened to you, school or education, your work history, and a little bit of personal history. So this is basically just a piece of paper that tells a little bit about yourself. Now the resume usually doesn't get you a job. Usually the resume gets you an interview. And the interview is really what's going to get you the job. And the interview is, usually it's a face-to-face interview. Sometimes it can be a phone interview. But usually it's a meeting between you and your potential employer. And they just want to get to know you a little bit better, see how you'll fit. They'll ask you some questions. And the interview is really what will end up getting you a job. We've used the word career a few times. Career is really kind of a long-term job. Long-term, we'll use that term a little bit loosely because if you look at this, the average job lasts about 2.1 years. So it's really not that long. And that kind of leads us to the second one. We'll have probably 20 plus jobs / careers over a lifetime. So career is just kind of, what you're going to be doing, or your line of work type of thing is really how we're going to define career. But that gives a little bit of an overview. Resume kind of gets you introduced, gets you an interview, but the interview is really going to be what gets you the job. When you're trying to get a job, you should kind of do things. I put 3. I should probably change this to 4. I have 4 things up on the board here. 4 things when trying to get a job. First, do research. I think I told you in class, so I was interviewing for a school. I did not do my research. They asked me a question about a dress code, and I proceeded to tell them that I didn't really agree with dress codes, and then I kind of caught myself and asked them, you guys have a dress code, right? And they said yes, and so I looked rather silly because I didn't do my research. So get to know them. Also, this kind of fits into the research part, kind of fits into the trombone player wanted. Find whether or not you're going to fit in. If your skill set and you're really good and you're kind of at a running back, you don't want to be going into a business that's hiring a quarterback because that's not your skill set. And that analogy is a little bit loose there. But really, we're just kind of talking about figure out whether or not you're going to fit. What are they hiring for, and is that you? That's part of the research. The introduction letter should come next, and that's just basically you introducing yourself. You would follow up the introduction letter with a resume and a cover letter. The cover letter is just basically kind of a written paragraph or 2, just kind of describing you and the situation and a little bit maybe about your resume. And then a follow-up phone call, thank you, later on, and kind of know this order. Hopefully there will be an interview in this spot if you're lucky. But those 4 things when trying to get a job, know that order. You don't need to know a lot of details other than kind of what we just put here. Taxes. And by the way, I'm going to go through this rather fast. So if you need to pause it. If you need to rewind it, rewind it. But taxes, there's really kind of 4 types of taxes we've spoken of. A federal tax is required. That's something that you need to know. You can't get out of paying federal taxes. It comes out of your paycheck automatically from your employer. So for me, working at the school district automatically takes out the federal taxes. I don't have to mess with that. I can't get out of it, but I don't have to mess with it because it comes out of my paycheck. Once the federal government, which is like the United States government, gets that money, they use it for government services, roads, programs, and other things like that. So a couple things to know. It's required, comes out of your paycheck, and what it's used for. FICA, also required, comes out of your paycheck. So if there's a test question about what's required, the FICA and the federal are the 2 that are required. And FICA really goes towards Medicare and Social Security. Social Security was kind of designed as a helper for retirement. So when you retire, you can draw Social Security, which helps you live at that age. Usually you can start drawing early 60s. You don't get quite as much money as if you wait till your later 60s, but it really was designed to help people with their retirement. The problem with that is that the money that you pay in may not be available. So the benefits of the Social Security may not be available in the future because it flat out might just run out of money. Also, we're not going to count on Social Security for that reason, but we're also not going to count on it because it may not be enough to live on. The average Social Security check is pretty low, and so Social Security is something we're not going to count on. That's why we talk so much in Chapter 2 about 401ks and Roth IRAs and saving 15%, because Social Security is not going to be enough. And so we do pay into Social Security. At least most jobs pay into Social Security, and Medicare is kind of a health care type of thing for the elderly and people who do not have health insurance or can't pay for it. So it's required. These two again are FICA. Can't do anything about those. They come out of your paycheck automatically. Now, a couple of the other taxes, the state taxes, you can, I guess, technically kind of avoid because they usually come from sales or things you buy. And if you don't buy a whole lot, you probably don't pay a whole lot in sales tax. And the more you buy, the more sales tax you pay. So I guess you could consider state taxes kind of optional, although we need to buy stuff. And then the local taxes, this is more like the cities, by the way. And this is more like the states, like Colorado. So the cities, the local taxes come out of property taxes, like your houses. Your parents probably pay taxes on their house twice a year, and that money goes to the cities. In our case, a lot of the money in Windsor Severance will go towards schools, actually, in paying for books and the desks and the teachers and those types of things. So that kind of gives you the four things on taxes: federal, the FICA, the state, and the local. Know those, know which ones are required, and which ones, and what they kind of go towards. I think that's fairly easy. I hope so. When we're talking about paychecks, we want to define our gross pay. This is the money we get paid before taxes. So if I get hired for a job and the company says they're going to pay me $50,000 a year, that's my gross pay. Because probably I will pay about 25% in taxes. And then whatever that is left, that's going to be my net pay, whatever I take home. So my net pay is going to be less than my gross pay. If somebody, again, asks, hey, how much do you make? You don't tell them how much you took home. You usually tell them what your gross pay was. But your gross pay is what you get paid before taxes. Net pay is what you actually get to take home. A couple things on the test. Trombone player wanted. We focus kind of you'll grow most in your areas of strength, things that you're already kind of good at. That's probably what you'll want to get into in terms of a career. You want a career that matches your abilities, what you're good at, your strengths, but also your likes. You know, we don't want somebody telling us to go do a job just because it pays a lot of money if we're not going to be good at that job or we're not going to like that job. Because we did talk about 80,000 some work hours over the course of your life, and you better like what you're doing, or those 80,000 hours are pretty rough. But the trombone player wanted focus was just you're going to probably go into something that you're, at least hopefully, you're good at, or that your strengths are related to, and that's the kind of career you should be looking for. The DISC personality test is on the test. And basically, that's what the DISC is. It's a personality test. It gives some insight on how you process decisions and what your tendencies are. If you tend to make fast decisions or slow decisions, if you tend to be dominant or tend to be just loyal and those types of things. This is included in your workbook. So know the characteristics from the chart. An example is steady and loyal. That would be an S from the DISC. Attention to detail would be more of a C. So know that for the test. And I think that kind of gives you a pretty good idea of what to expect. And if you know that stuff, you should be okay. If you have any questions, please feel free to reply in the comments. And good luck to you.